So wait, Arsenal's like director of operations is Kroenke's son?
Yeah. Which is...
Man, that sucks for Arsenal.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think many people are very pleased about it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe the son's better off than the dad is. It's the dad who Stan Kroenke, I think that's it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's not pronounced Kroenke. That
It's
sounds like
Cronkite.
I think that's a rejected Donkey Kong character, Cronky Kong.
Cronky.
But I'm gonna keep calling him Cronky.
He's just drunk Donkey Kong.
Hi, it's your cousin Cronky.
Yeah, banana.
What's up, you turds? This is You'll Never Talk Alone. I am king of the turds, Joseph Craven, joined by the Archduke of Turdtum, Alex Level. Alex, how are things?
Just want to point out it's Archduke, D-O-O-K, not D-U-K-E. Archduke of Turds. And I am great. I am royalty. I am presiding over my region of the country.
Master of your domain. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This podcast already sucks. Here we are, 2 weeks into the season, embarrassing ourselves live on the air for you right here, right now. Liverpool riding relatively high with 6 points, 2 victories. Interesting storylines that we will discuss in depth in a little bit here. On the verge of a matchup early on with a team that is looking just about as good as Build, but like still figuring out a lot of things. Like they've got 6 points, but also they're barely winning matches type of setup here for Arsenal. But on the cusp of all of that, it makes for a super interesting time in the life of Liverpool themselves. And we're here to talk about it a little bit here. Obviously, 2-1 victory over Southampton. That's the big talking points in all of that being, of course, that it was a nerve-wracking victory, more reminiscent of some years past than maybe what we are used to of the last season and what we're hoping for coming into this year. Alex, I'm a little bit worked up and I'm running my mouth a lot because I've been, as I told you, I've been jamming to some real big fish before we hit record, and I'm just feeling it. So I need to take a step back and let you take over. Give me your assessment of what was a weird Southampton match.
Well, if you want calm and easygoing, that is not my impression of this match. This match was incredibly frustrating, incredibly infuriating, and incredibly nerve-wracking. We were pretty darn bad. We looked like we had flown 6,000 miles round trip, played 120 minutes, and then been given a mid-afternoon game slot on Saturday without getting maximum rest, because we just looked off the pace. We looked tired. Mm-hmm. We didn't look together. We couldn't get anything going. We lacked sharpness. We couldn't finish. We couldn't connect any passes. It was just not good. But the best thing about it is we won.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's always that. There were a lot of factors. There were a lot of negatives in it. But do you think fatigue was one of the main reasons that we looked so sloppy, or do you think there was more going on there?
I think it was absolutely fatigue. I think our front three was exhausted. You could definitely tell Mo was not on the top of his game because he had all those minutes in his legs. Mane was tired, but that didn't really show. Same with Bobby. I mean, it really showed for everybody in the first half. Second half, we were more cohesive. We seemed to have more of a plan and more of an ability to execute it. But really, I mean, fatigue played a huge part. And as we've talked about before, when there's kind of any sort of rotation in our midfield three, it kind of works against us.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of people not on the same page because I think they were too tired to pick up the book.
Yeah. I mean, that seemed to be the impression. There was a lot. I know we joked about not having much of an off season, but obviously in the off season, you've got the opportunity to play, half of your guys and like rest, swap out like the entire starting 11 every 45 minutes, all that sort of stuff. Like you really do have a lot of rotation in the offseason. So players aren't playing the same, sort of minutes or the same pace that they would normally. And so that kind of shocking ourselves back into shape
Right.
with 3 matches within a week to start things off. Hopefully this week enough time to recover. Fatigue for sure seeming like a major factor. And before we get to the obvious blunder by goalkeeper Adrian, that was like the major whoopsie of the match, the major oops. Talk about the midfield a little bit, because I know that was an area that you were quite frustrated with the play of, and it was pretty obvious was, I mentioned the match kind of was reminiscent of a few years ago. It was kind of reminiscent of the midfield a few years ago that was more of a mess and less of a driving force behind our success.
Right. They've been kind of a talking point for us for a while, because it's clear they have very specific instructions, and it's always kind of unclear whether or not they're doing those correctly or not. You don't know if they're supposed to just be like non-existent. I feel like that's not the case. But they're getting the job done. They're just not really doing much more than being a middleman between the back line and the front three, especially in the first half of this game when our fullbacks were not getting forward as much. They were having to do that, and they were kind of getting stretched all over the place. And 2 things have really contributed to the weirdness of the midfield so far. One was pointed out in an article on The Athletic about how we are playing with a higher line because of the VAR. It sounds like Klopp made that decision that we're willing to gamble by playing a higher line, knowing that we're pretty good at stepping together, as you can see on our set pieces, and we're willing to take the chance to catch them off sides. And it's taking a little adjustment, and we're not necessarily doing it the best because we're getting caught all over the place when the fullbacks push up and the midfield's trying to cover, and we're just getting stretched, and we're not doing as good a job of holding the line. It's leading to chances. And the other thing is, and I know Will pointed this out on our text thread, another mention of Will when he's not here. It's the time when we like to talk about him the most is when he's not here.
Whenever he's here, we're all just like, Will, you love Jordan Henderson. And then when he's not here, we're like, man, he's really insightful. Yeah. I wish he would talk more.
And that was that with the high line, there's less space for the midfield to operate. And I will piggyback on that and say that when there's less space to operate, it's up to the midfield to create the space to operate in. And the midfield we have, the players we have more often than not, and the skill sets of the players that we tend to play in there, they're not the kind of players that make space for themselves. That's kind of the player that we've talked about needing since Phil left, is that kind of creative 10, but with our work rate to get in and make the space for yourself and pick that pass apart. And that's just not what the players that we use in the midfield most often do. So we're seeing kind of the byproducts of that, where it's up to the front 3 to make them space for themselves, which they're good at. But when you're tired, you see that it doesn't work as effectively, and chances go begging, unless you're Sadio Mane, who makes chances out of nothing and buries them. So it's frustrating, and it's getting the job done. And I know it's early in the season, but we have a player that could have done something like that who is continually getting hurt because of the mismanagement over the summer in Naby Keita.
Daniel Sturridge.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know. My bad.
So Ox was probably our best midfielder. He had a bit of flair in the second half, but I don't know if any of them gave above a 6 out of 10 performance. And that's something to work on, especially with Arsenal coming up.
Yeah, exactly. Let's pause for just a moment before I get to what I was more midfield talk, but that freaking Mane goal, man.
Just absurd.
I texted my younger brother like immediately after it happened, and because he happens to love him some Sadio Mane, and I was like, dude, did you see that Mane goal this morning? And he was like, I've been busy, I didn't see it, what happened? And I just sent him a link to it, and he just replied back like instantly, all caps, how?
Yeah.
How did he have space?
It was ridiculously world class. And like I just mentioned, like that's someone making space for themselves and doing something special. and we
Yeah.
don't see that a lot from our midfield. And you can tell that's probably not what they're asked to do, but it might make what they are asked to do work better if they do that every now and then. Just because I think I've texted to the group before, because it's something that I notice and it's pretty obvious that our midfielders never shoot, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's always about keeping. It would be nice to have someone shoot to keep defenses honest and to keep keepers honest, and I know that's what we like about Shaqiri, that he does that when he comes in, but. It's very apparent that if it's at the top of the 18, it is up to the midfield to pass it out wide to the overlapping fullback, no matter what.
That was one of the reasons why I thought it'd be worthwhile keeping Harry Wilson as well. Who, over the weekend jumps in and scores a out of the box goal.
Most goals from outside the box, I think, in England's top 2 leagues over the past 2 seasons, something like that. Some weird stat like that.
I think it might be through the top 4 leagues.
That would make sense. I can't see anyone lower down in the league being better at shooting from distance.
I don't know, man. Maybe they got just real crappy goalkeepers there. And they just know this guy's always off his line. You look at our midfielders in general, right? By the way, Wilson's goal was hideous too.
It was very much not of his intention to go in the way that it went in.
No, absolutely not. He was just, hey, I'm going to, make sure they're awake. And it just happened to deflect just right.
Yeah.
Anyway, but hey, like you're saying, no one in our midfield is that type of player. I mean, you look at our midfield players, and you've got, the ones that are true midfielders, because like Bobby Firmino, Mohamed Salah are still listed as midfielders on the website I'm on right now. And I'm like, who in the world is considering them midfielders at this point? But you've got, Genie, James Milner, old JM7, Naby, Hendo, Ox, Lallana, Shaqiri, right? Like that's it. And of course, Harvey Elliott, the legend Harvey Elliott. But those guys are not long range shooting guys, as much as Hendo has been like a good Gerrard replacement in like all the captainy sort of ways, since Gerrard left. Mm-hmm. He's not a Gerrard style long bombing player. That's not his style. He's going to like pinpoint a pass for sure.
Right.
But he's not going to shoot, Genie, he's not going to shoot. Like you were saying, Ox, Shaqiri, those are the only 2 like creative attacking midfielders that we really have. The other guys just are not that style of play.
Right.
So if we're playing a more of a high line that kind of needs the midfield to test things a bit more, that's not the squad that's going to be able to do that naturally. It's going to take them a bit of time to attempt that sort of thing. It's growing pains. Even now, when we're in a really good, a really good squad, a really good run, coming off of last season, all of the stuff that we love so much, there's always adjustments that you can make and like improvements you can make to try to adapt to things to make that final push to win a title. And this is one of those things that, hey, if it works out, great, but it's going to take a little bit of time, whether or not we just really don't want to admit that, or we really don't want to have to deal with anything else taking more time.
Right.
We're like, we've paid our dues. Come on now. Along with the midfield, though, let's drop back to our goalkeeper, the hero of midweek in Chelsea, who is so far extremely reminiscent of keepers we've had in the past. Great reactions, but the moment he has to think about anything, he's gonna screw it up.
Yeah.
He was the hero in midweek for sure, and then was almost the scapegoat against Southampton with just a massive gaffe, unexplainable, no idea why he did what he did sort of situation. Caused Virgil van Dijk to like drop to his knees almost, and like, oh my God.
Like, what the heck?
What's up with that? I mean, what do we do with the fact that we now have this goalkeeper who is troublesome or is troubling us in that way?
First of all, I'm going to be really mad at him because he made me look really stupid. He
I
did
wasn't going to bring it up, but I'm glad you did.
he did the exact opposite of what I said were the reasons that we brought him in. I don't know what it was. I appreciate and laugh ruefully at the fact that Klopp explained it as him seeing Allison do that last year and thinking that's what Liverpool keepers do. So he made an error to fit in. That's
Right.
hilarious. It's also super sad that just for some reason, whenever we get a goalie that's not the best in the world, they are required to make very dumb errors. We thought we'd seen the end of it, but no.
No, of course not.
I wonder how much of the delay of him kicking the ball, because it took him forever to kick anything, was down to his ankle. Maybe he felt that he couldn't get the power on it, or he was scared to plant his foot and really go all in, but it wasn't good. He did make some pretty good saves. I mean, that save on Yoshida was incredible, and it kept us in the game. It kept us in the lead and preserved the win. But with his feet, he was not distributing very well. He was not distributing at all sometimes, and he was cutting it way too close to. And I mean, we saw in the first half how their goal happened before, and it just didn't go in the goal. So he was really living life on the edge, and it seems like for what our keepers should be doing, he has the skills, but maybe it's not in his head yet, and he's just overthinking it, and it's taking too long, and that's what's happening. But he needs to.
He's got the skills, but he has yet to use them to pay the bills. Is
Right?
what you're
Yeah,
saying.
exactly. I mean, the utility companies are calling, and they're expecting to be paid, and it's time for him.
He's
to
getting all
start
kind
paying.
of spam calls from debt collectors.
Exactly. And I mean, if you think Danny Ings closed him down quickly, imagine how quickly Aubameyang or Nicolas Pepe will close him down. So he needs to work that out ASAP.
Gosh. Does that worry you a lot? I mean, okay, actually, hold on real quick. Like, all fair play to Danny Ings for stepping in and really trying to show out, probably in trying to do that in front of the crowd, and as a, hey guys, thanks for everything. I'm still alive. Sort of play. But like, how close was that to, how close were Southampton to equalizing on multiple occasions?
Way too close.
It was terrifying.
Way too close.
It was terrifying.
I mean, they missed a sitter near the end of the game that would have leveled it. It was a perfect cross right across the face of goal, and we were kind of all over the place. And we rode our luck, and it ended up working out. And I know that the players know that more than anybody else. So while this performance wasn't exactly thrilling or exciting or satisfying, they know better than anybody else that they've got to pick it up to beat the team that's coming to town this weekend.
Oh, yeah. So are you worried about the team after that sort of match? Or is that one of those things where you're like, okay, early season, lots of fatigue, and we're still trying to deal with the chemistry of bringing in another keeper who is not, one of the absolute best in the world sort of situations?
Not so much worried about the full team. I mean, we didn't have Fabinho or Henderson playing from the start, and those will be huge additions. Although, according to Kevin Nolan, Joe Willock is more suited to a combined 11 than Fabinho, which is hilariously dumb. But the keeper issue is a worry because that just is our existence as a club if it's not Allison and net. The keeper issue is always a worry. So I feel like we're going to fix that, and we're going to pay a lot extra attention to that. And I feel like we won't play as risky a high line against such pacey attackers.
And I mean, you got to figure that we're also going to see a little bit more out of the attacking three, who are the lifeblood of, so much that we do. We've talked a lot about the midfield. We've talked about defense, goalkeeping, all of that. What we haven't really talked much about is like the attacking three and our fullbacks were not as sharp as they normally are against Southampton. And so you got to assume that they're going to step that up against Arsenal, considering those are two of the our two biggest, the fullbacks in particular, the two biggest positions for starting our attack, building up our attack, that sort of thing. You got to think that we're going to see more out of them and out of Salah, Bobby, Sadio going into this Arsenal match. So there's a part of that as well that will when those two position groups are on at all, it covers up a whole lot that goalkeeping, center backs, and midfield might mess up on,
Absolutely. No, it'll ease the burden on the back line to have to be flawless with their timing together and stepping in a uniform fashion. So, as soon as they are not exhausted and have not flown across the entirety of Europe, then I feel like they'll perform a little bit better.
Stepping in a uniform fashion? What are they, North Korean army?
No, they're a dance team.
Oh, the Jackson Prep Pacers.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's the most niche joke I could have possibly have made on this podcast.
All 0 of you listening that understand that.
It's literally going to be you and Andrew, and that's it. And Andrew ain't listening to this thing. So there's only 2. This is interesting to me. There's only 2 teams that have made it through the first 2 weeks of the season, winning both of their games. I'm trying to remember. I don't feel like that happened at this time last season or a couple of seasons ago. Obviously, we have the introduction of VAR to thank for dropping Man City down by a couple of points. Whether or not you agree with the usage of it or how strict it was, in the letter of the law sort of intent sort of thing. We're all thankful as Liverpool fans that it happened to City.
Yes.
So that in mind, the 2 teams that actually won both of their opening matches are entering week 3 with the unfavorable position of the fact that one of them is going to walk out of this without winning the match. One of them is going, they're going to either see their first loss or first draw of the season. And so the stakes are pretty high even in week 3. Arsenal kind of hoping to prove that they have made the right moves to improve as a club and become a top 4 contender or top 2 contender, really, to make that sort of point. Liverpool, of course, we're trying to hold on to the form, hold on to everything that happened last season. Man, this is an exciting week 3 match, right?
I feel like we play them early a lot.
Yeah.
And I think they know that because there's just a bunch of goals. That's why they want to put us playing them so early in the season all the time. But this could be a big one already.
In that, like, what have you seen out of Arsenal so far? Obviously, I mentioned earlier, it's 2 victories, but it's a 1-0 victory over Newcastle. It's 2-1 over Burnley. Not necessarily the most impressive score lines going on here. What have you seen in this club, in Arsenal, and all of those? A team that, we kind of thought actually did quite a lot of improvement in the offseason.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad we're playing them now rather than later in the season for the first time because they're still adjusting to the new signings. They're still adjusting to potentially new tactics in light of the new signings. So they're still finding their feet and still trying to gel. So this is a good time to play them because it will come down to individual ability for them trying to beat our players. And I'm confident our players will win those matchups the majority of the time. But they labored a bit against Newcastle. It looked a lot better, really, against Burnley, but they did concede a goal. They still look a little shaky defensively, but they do have players settling in and offering more. I mean, Ceballos was fantastic against Burnley, but as much as we just pooped on our midfield a little bit, it's going to be better than Burnley's midfield. So just he will not look as imperious, I imagine. And Pepe, I mean, we wanted him. He's there now. He'll probably start just because it's a big match and he's a big signing, so they'll throw him in. But we always have to be aware of the threat that Lacazette and Aubameyang pose. There's Aubameyang's lightning quick. He has good rapport with Lacazette. They can create something out of nothing, and Aubameyang more than Lacazette is a good finisher. So that's something that the battle with our center backs, whoever it is, it will be Van Dijk and probably Matip, but potentially Gomez. that will be a big battle. And I can't imagine us going so gung-ho with trying to catch them off sides, because if we fail, we're not catching Aubameyang.
Right. Yeah, we're just not. He's already got 2 goals in the first 2 matches. Lacazette has a goal as well. This is a dangerous Arsenal team, more so than they probably have been in years past. We always look at this matchup, as you pointed out, we play them really early on in the season a lot. So we always tend to look at this matchup as being like, oh, this is the first true test, so on and so forth. Like, we always look at it with a lot of expectation, but this, more so than ever, is really a big time test. And hopefully the timing is right, where we are able to take advantage of it. And hopefully an actual week of rest will help out in terms of compared to the Southampton sluggishness that we had to deal with there. So yeah, this is exciting. This is and this is also the late game on Saturday. This is the final match on Saturday. So we actually get the prime billing and everything for it. So man, this is the big time for sure. So you already mentioned a little bit of what how Arsenal would probably line up against us. But what is it going to take on our end of things in order to beat a team like them? What are we going to have to do from like our tactical standpoint?
We can't be wasteful. We've been a little wasteful in all 3 of the competitive matches we've played. I'm not really counting the Community Shield as one of those, but we were kind of wasteful in that. We have to be fresh, and thankfully, like you said, we have that week of rest to get there. But the sharpness is going to have to be there. And luckily, I think this will play into the strengths of our midfield, where there will be space. They can turn, they can drive into it, and immediately distribute to our front 3 and let our front 3 do their thing. Arsenal still don't have the strongest back line, and just the fact that our front 3 are so good, and we've seen what they can do to an Arsenal defense. So I'm really looking forward to that, no matter what they've done in the summer. David Luiz started against Burnley, but he's David Luiz. He's good, but there's always an error. Tierney's not fully settled in yet. This is a good time to be playing their defense. So, yeah, we've just got to be sharp and take advantage of the space they'll give us, because they can't imagine them sitting too deep. I know they'll try to counter, but it's Arsenal. They'll want to impose themselves on the game a little bit. So it should be a interesting battle.
Yeah, really should. I don't know what to really expect as of yet out of us, really, because we have been very quick to, I don't know, I don't want to say like to obviously not drop out of form, because it's been 2 matches, but like such a difference between that Norwich match and the Southampton match, that you got to think the story or the reason behind that is that the fact that there's a really long, drawn out UEFA Super Cup right in the middle of it.
Right.
So the freshness will probably be, in my mind, like the deciding factor between what sort of performance we really see, something that rivals the beginning of the season or something that's a little bit more of a slugfest, like we saw against Southampton. Against Southampton, it was we had most of the possession. We really were not like trying to or we weren't trying to play like a counterattacking game, anything like that. It just was sloppy. It just was a little bit sloppy. And that's going to be like the main difference of whether or not we can beat Arsenal, coming up this Saturday. So, that being said, I guess we need to talk a little bit about Arsenal's kits this season, right? Let's get into the real analysis. Let's forget all this actual talk of the sport. We need to talk about the actual Arsenal kits for 2019-2020. Wow, I just kind of just now realized that we're getting really close to 2020.
Yeah, it's weird. Labor Day is right around the corner.
Oh my gosh. What's going on here? Anyway, so the Arsenal kits, this of course is our segment for kits and giggles. where we talk about evaluating all of the Premier League opponents' kits that we come across. Well, not just Premier League. We'll talk Champions League as well. Let's not forget that. Arsenal, for the most part, I feel like is one of those classic looks that rarely changes very much. And it's not changing all that much this year either. You know, the red body, the white sleeves, some variation of white stripes and all of that on their main kit. Then they've got they almost always do a yellow kit, don't they?
Yeah, it's pretty traditional for them.
Yeah.
It's either that or like the mint green or blue that they had last season.
That's right. I remember that one. I just always remember Arsenal being one of the ones that really did a yellow kit a huge amount. And they got another one of those that's got an interesting like stripe design on it. What's your take on these kits?
I think these are lit. They are, and they're obviously playing on the nostalgia factor, and it's a really good execution of that. They managed to be Adidas kits without looking like the template Adidas kits. I mean, I'm a sucker for patterns. The pattern goes all the way up. You know, that's a big thing for me. It goes all the way above the shoulders. So that's all I was looking for. Is just a pattern that goes all the way, and you get that in that
I mean,
yellow kit.
You're not asking for much, you know.
It's just one thing that I really need. I really like the collar on the red kit as well. So I mean, for everything that it brings together and just how good it looks, I'll give it a lit kit.
I can't disagree with you at all on this. The red kit is always one of the classier, iconic kits. You know, you think about some of the. I think this is an important thing. You think about some of the iconic kits in the Premier League, and you think about the Liverpool all red. You think about like the Chelsea blue with the white, you know, shoulder stripes or whatever. You think about. As much as we hate to admit it, like the Man United red top, black shorts sort of situation. And thankfully, you know, Arsenal has not ruined theirs by making some weird, super off the wall change, you know, into their traditional look. Unlike when like United did the giant Chevy logo.
Yeah.
And then like the fade into, you know, shorts look. And Chelsea did something where they changed up just the stripes or whatever, and it just started looking like trash as well. And, you know, anyway, all that to say, this is classy. It's classy. It's classic. It's a good look. And then there's something kind of 90s about the yellow kit, that pattern that's on it. Is it a reference to something? I think you said something about nostalgia.
Yeah, it is a reference to one of their old Adidas kits. I'm trying to look up the year. I think they call it the Rotten Banana kit. Like that's how they colloquially refer to it as. I was trying to find. I think
I just looked it up. They call it the bruised banana.
Bruised banana. There it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, man.
I think it's from 25 years ago. So that's what it's referencing.
I had not seen the bruised banana before, but this has to be one of my this has to be one of my favorites, immediate favorites. I love this bruised banana. This is so over the top and beautiful.
Yeah, it's hideous and fantastic all at once. It's so 90s. Yeah, the 91, 93, I think is what they're referencing.
Look at that. Man, that's awesome then. Yeah, that's very 90s. And so that brings a lot. That's a great homage that they're playing with that yellow kit this year. So good on you, Arsenal. That's some good kits. Oh, man. So scoreline prediction time as we get to the end of this episode here. Obviously, this is the big one. Obviously, this is one that can go a long way if, you know, continuing that slight lead over Manchester City, continuing that, you know, well, both Manchester teams. And then, of course, fifth place Brighton and Hove Albion, a massive title contender right there. Obviously. So continuing that, if getting 9 points in the first 3 weeks would be massive for sure. What do you think our chances are in this one? And what sort of scoreline do you think we see?
I'm feeling really good about this. We do really well against them at home and early in the season. So, really feeling confident. There's definitely going to be goals. There's always goals, like we mentioned, and this will be no different. I'm feeling a win. I'm feeling a repeat of opening day in Klopp's first full season. I'm thinking 4-3 victory for us.
Wow. A lot of goals then.
Yeah, lots of goals.
I was thinking goals as well. I wasn't going to go 4-3. I was debating between a 3-1 and a 3-2. I think I'm going to go 3-1. I think that and I think that the third goal for us comes late in the match to like alleviate the stress. I don't think it's like a dominant 3-1. I think it's like a late on, okay, the game is sealed sort of goal. So that's what I'm going to go with. 3-1. That's my prediction.
I like it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I thought long and hard for like, I don't know, 15 seconds about it.
That's more than I thought.
Dear listener, if you follow us on social medias, including the famed twitter.com, I only follow one account on twitter.com. I follow Real Big Fish, the band. That's it. That's the only account I follow. But if you follow us on Twitter, that at YNTA podcast, I was honest to God about to give the ROTC Twitter handle. It just took everything out of me to not say ROTC Sports. Oh my gosh.
I could hear the struggle.
Yeah, it was so bad. I'm already dreading the stupid start of college football season. It's just going to destroy my brain. If you follow us at YNTA Podcast, tweet at us your predictions for the upcoming match. Tweet at us your concerns, how you think Adrian, like Rocky, is going to do. That's just my favorite thing. Klopp's genuine enthusiasm to explain his reference.
What a man.
In case you didn't get it. Tweet us your thoughts and opinions on how things are going to go there. And we would love to chat with you there. We love engaging with people on Twitter. So hit us up right there. Before we actually fully sign off, let's give a shout out to, I jokingly mentioned him earlier. Let's give a shout out to Daniel Sturridge. A lot of talk going on that he's very close to signing a deal in Turkey for like all the money that Turkey has. So, so good for him. From what all reports are saying right now is that all the rumors are, it would be a fairly lucrative contract in his favor. So I feel like he totally deserves that. I feel like he's paid his dues. He's dealt with so many nasty injuries over his time. He just needs to collect a good old paycheck.
Yep, and hopefully stay fit. Hopefully something is different about Turkish water or Turkish air. I mean, it's helped Loris Karius play better, so hopefully it can help Daniel Sturridge stay fit.
I've got some Turkish coffee in my pantry here at my house. That stuff is crazy.
And I knew a guy that liked Turkish Delight so much that he caused a fictional war between a witch and a lion.
I know a guy that I'm about to eject from this podcast. Oh, man. You mentioned Loris Karius. It does remind me of maybe my biggest concern about Alisson's injury is what it will do to his confidence, because that was like the biggest thing with Karius is that the moment he like broke his hand, when he returned, like his confidence was completely shot.
Yeah.
And he never fully recovered. So they seem like completely different personalities because Karius was taking like glamour shots and pulls in like Ibiza. And Alisson's like Instagram is entirely like his wife and his kids.
And then riding
it's like
horses.
Family. Yeah, it's like white button-up shirts on the beach, family portraits, and that sort of thing. So like they seem like different personalities, but man, I hope it doesn't. I hope he could shake it off.
And be sure to download Taylor Swift's new album. No, just kidding. I thought that's what you were trying to plug.
So that will do it here. Week 2 in the books. We're looking forward to. Will already said in our YNTA text thread that he's looking forward to joining us on next week's episode to discuss our 6-0 victory over Arsenal. So I'm going to hold him to that prediction. I think that's exactly what he would want me to do.
Yep. And he's going to get in trouble if it's not accurate.
I'm going to be so mad at him. So mad. All right, that is Alex. I am Joseph. For all of us here at You'll Never Talk Alone, thank you for listening. Andrew, please sign us off. I'm waiting.